That military fearlessness.
Sometimes finding that in civilians, you really have to train that into them. The military took care of that part for you. They taught you the discipline. I think those people, they're less likely to quit, especially if they're on mission. They're task oriented, give them a checklist to follow,
You're so
attack.
right. You have carefully cultivated winners because you're saying, hey, listen to people that have actually done it. And you've taken time out of your very busy schedule to join peer-to-peer groups. So I want you to talk about how important that is. And then also, social capital is your own brand in the community. You're a young guy, but you're very philanthropic. And tell us why all those things are important to you and how you think intentionally about, like, who is Joe McCabe.
Yeah, shortcuts are the biggest thing with those groups. Shortcuts, someone has already learned that lesson and paid the price. And just by sitting there, whether it's, for me, one of the biggest things was when I started to make a lot of money, as I listened in these groups, there were people who had already figured out how to lower your tax basis pretty easily by
And you were in a
making
group
investments.
called, like, Go Abundance, which is a national peer-to-peer group focused on real estate guys. So you could be in a group with, I don't know how many, but they could share their experiences and you could learn from them, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these groups at whatever phase you're in, they had everything from, I've got issues with my family to I've got tax problems, I've got capital gains problems, all the way to hey, I've just got a ton of money and I want to invest. And there's groups out there that serve all of these purposes, but they build great friendships. So these guys travel together, they do business together over the long term, and they're really an incredible thing. And R360 specifically for me has forced me to put in place things that guys in their 60s and 70s in the group are just thinking about now. And I'm like, oh wow, I want to be there, right? I'm hearing this problem that if they had done it 30 years ago, wouldn't be so messy now. And so I put things in place like trust in a state. And some of the attorneys look at me funny, like, why are you even doing this right now? But because I've seen it now on the other side, I've seen what
Yeah.
happens if you don't.
And, and I think the other thing about R360 that I like is that at the end of the meeting, you have to say, hey, based on what I've learned today, between now and the meeting in a year from now, as the patriarch or matriarch of the family, I'm going to do these things for myself, my spouse, my kids. And when you come back in a year, it's like, hey, Joe, Charlie, did you get these done? And you don't want to be the schlepper that says I didn't do anything. And also, if you do need help in getting those done, you're going to get connected with someone that's already done it or an outside resource that's been verified by other members that they've worked with that's going to help you do that. So you're mastering and you're growing always around these 6 different levels. So it's almost like you have your own things to do. And Robert Cialdini, the most quoted psychologist of all time, he wrote a great book, Persuasion, talks about when you vocalize, I want to be held accountable, you have this internal integrity that says, okay, I put it out to the world, now I got to do it.
That if I had a third lesson, that would be the one I think on one of the other interviews you and I did before, I mentioned that I do quite the opposite of a lot of people. I don't have an assistant. I don't triage my email. I tackle everything as it comes in because there are so few projects that require me that I can't delegate or that I can't just tackle right there. There's so few. Every now and then there's something where I just have to put my head down for 2 hours and look at the books, right? But for the most part, I just take every email that comes in and I address it by the end of the day. And I don't get to sleep until that email box is empty, all those phone calls are returned. Because if not, it just rolls over to the next day. It's stressful.
That's a lot of discipline. I'm taking my daughter to this R360 India trip next week, and another daughter graduates, so I'm going to be out of pocket for a week. What do you do in that case? Because I've heard some great advice of getting an automatic email back and saying, hey, return your email because I'm gone for a week. I'll be back on this day. If it's important emergency, text me or hit me through WhatsApp, but I'm out for a week.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, so I'll put that vacation responder on and just say, hey, I'm out of the office, limited
Right.
availability. Nothing super fancy, but every day, yeah, especially towards just before 5 o'clock Eastern, if I'm overseas, I'll I'll make sure that I address everything that's in my inbox. I will take 2 hours and just then in that case I will triage. I'll call my chief of staff. I'll call the COO. I'll call the CFO and just say, is there anything burning down? And I let them know to text me. Like I don't I don't take off. I don't like the thought. I feel worse if I'm just not in tune. If I don't feel like I don't have my finger on it, I don't feel great. I'd rather just jump in for that hour. It's not ruining my vacation or ruining my mindset. Just spend the hour, 2 hours to get caught up. Make sure everything is good, right? Make sure nothing crazy
I
happened. And
I'm going to do a follow-up 30-minute Zoom call with you because you're going to be my my coach on this. I could do better there. So I knowing you, you have these like hacks and things that people I find that do things at a kind of professional athlete level, things are so intuitive that they have to really stop and reverse engineer. And it's like, oh, I do
yeah.
this, this, that, and the other. So I'll connect with you later because I think that is super important. And especially, somebody important writes to you, you don't respond back for 10 days because you're busy with other things is a problem. But tell me about your brand now, like in the community, and also some of the philanthropy that you're involved in with. I know you're very involved with veterans and other things. And I found that unusual for a young man like yourself, which I think made you really attractive to the membership committee that we're looking for people that are superheroes that can change the world. And you're already doing it in your 20s. So obviously, by the time you're 60, the things that you're going to do are going to be exponential.
Yeah, and I think right now, like what the things that attracted me the most on the philanthropic side are always kind of people getting hurt, whether it was anti-human trafficking work or sponsoring those groups or working with veterans. I think hiring veterans is a big thing that we're focused on right now. I just hired a new chief of staff, new slash CFO, and he's an ex-army guy. He was on the civilian side for a long time as a comptroller of Southern Command, and he just left the military and came on with us full time. I think leveraging those skill sets and helping those guys realize that, man, that skill set that you learned in the military is so applicable on the civilian side because I've used it. That discipline piece of it, as
Right.
long as you didn't catch the bitterness that a lot of military guys get, as long as you don't have that, you can translate those skills into something incredible on the civilian side. And so, as I start to,
And how do you
get
find them, Joe? Like, what advice would you give to people listening to this? They're like, damn, that's a great idea, but how do I find them? Are there particularly places that you go to find vets?
Yeah, there's a few recruiting companies out there. One of them is called SOCOM, and literally they transition special operators, special forces guys out of the military and put them into um, the civilian world. That was started by Rob
So
O'Neill.
SOCOM, Sierra, Oscar, Charlie, Oscar, Mike,
Uh,
for us military
yep.
guys.
So I've recruited two guys from there, high level guys from that organization, and then sometimes literally just on Indeed. Like if we do see a resume come through with the veterans, we at least try to talk to that guy, thank them for their service. But I think those people, they're less likely to quit, especially if they're on mission. If you can get them on mission, if you can get them, they're task oriented, give them a checklist to follow,
You're
they
so
attack.
right.
Yeah.
When I had my financial services company, there was this guy, Marciano. The guy was a force con recon Marine who was like 5 foot, but he was the hand-to-hand combat instructor. This guy was fearless. He was a paint salesman for Glidden. He walked in, he needed to borrow a phone at a brokerage agency. Like, what do you guys do? And this guy said, you come work for me and you do everything I tell you to do. In less than a year, you'll be a millionaire. He literally quit that day and he was a millionaire in a year because he had that hyper focus of following exactly what they tell me to do, which involved 300 phone calls
Yeah.
a day to, but he was like, he had that military fearlessness, and I'd go out with him socially, and sometimes he'd do reckless things. He then became a race car driver, like F3 or whatever, but he had like that thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so critical, and sometimes finding that in civilians, you really have to train that into them. This comes, the military took care of that part for you. They taught you the discipline. Now you might have to rechannel that and remind them of what that feels like, and sometimes it's a little easier when they're working with other military guys,
That's true.
for sure.
Right. And I imagine also when you put things out to find new employees, you could put, vets, like not a special preference, but at least, more points if you are a military vet.
Yeah, we try to advertise like there's ways to do it. On the down low where you're advertised like when we say we're Inc. 500, we also put up there that we were Inc. or Vet 100.
Got it.
So we try to put the hints out there, and they'll find you for sure in those
Got it.
scenarios.
So you dedicate your time and donate money to two basic areas that you're passionate about. One is veterans, and then also ending human trafficking and all the things around that.